Close your eyes now and let your body sink deeply into the comfort of where you rest. The world around you is becoming quieter now, more peaceful. The morning mist hangs low over thatched roofs and winding dirt paths, creating an ethereal, dreamlike quality to the countryside. The first thing you notice is the profound silence. No hum of electricity, no distant traffic, no modern sounds at all. Instead, there's the gentle lowing of cattle in distant fields, the rhythmic thump of a blacksmith's hammer on anvil, and the soft murmur of voices speaking in Old English dialects that sound almost musical to your ears. The smells become part of the atmospheric backdrop of your journey, no longer jarring but simply different. You're observing this world with the detached calm of a dreamer, floating through history like a gentle ghost. You can almost smell the wood smoke curling up from chimneys, mingling with the earthy scent of damp soil and wild herbs growing along the village borders. Her movements are methodical, practiced from years of routine. She's wearing a simple brown tunic and a linen head covering, her hands rough and reddened from constant work. The wooden bucket she lifts is heavy with water that looks nothing like the crystal-clear liquid you reaccustomed to. The stones beneath your feet are worn smooth by centuries of use, each one placed by hand generations ago. The sensation is different from modern pavement. Uneven, alive with history. Your modern shoes feel strange on these ancient stones, and you realize how different everything is about to become. You can hear the distant whisper of wind through ancient trees, the soft crackle of a dying fire somewhere far away. These sounds are soothing, comforting, drawing you deeper into a state of perfect calm. Your mind is becoming still, ready to drift away on a gentle journey through time. The air carries scents that your modern nose has never encountered. Unwashed bodies, animal waste, rotting food scraps, and the pungent smell of tanned leather and wool. People around you haven't bathed in weeks, perhaps months. Their teeth are yellowed and often missing, their skin bearing the marks of hard labor and poor nutrition. Our story today begins in the year 1347. In a small village nestled between rolling hills and dense forests of medieval England, imagine yourself as a modern person, suddenly transported back to this medieval world. You find yourself standing on a narrow cobblestone path that winds through the village center. The first challenge of surviving in medieval times would be the complete absence of modern hygiene and cleanliness. But as you breathe in this scene, let it wash over you peacefully. You notice a woman drawing water from a well in the village square. This water is the color of weak tea, with small particles floating in it. Medieval people had no understanding of bacteria or water purification. They simply drank what was available, often from the same sources where animals drank and waste was disposed of. The medieval people had built up immunities over generations, but you, with your sanitized modern digestive system, would likely become violently ill within hours. Dysentery, cholera, and other waterborne diseases were constant companions in medieval life, claiming countless lives. As you watch her drink deeply from a wooden cup, you realize your modern stomach would rebel instantly against such water. The woman finishes drinking and wipes her mouth with the back of her hand. She notices you watching her and offers a gap-toothed smile, gesturing toward the well. The cold of medieval times cannot touch you here in your peaceful, relaxed state. You're experiencing this history as a gentle observer, safe and secure in your modern world, while your mind drifts through these ancient scenes. You're not experiencing fear or anxiety about this knowledge. Instead, you're refilled with a deep appreciation for the resilience of medieval people and the conveniences of your modern life. Inside, it would be cool and dim, lit only by candles and the weak light filtering through crude glass windows. The air would be thick with incense, used partly for religious purposes, but also to mask the smell of unwashed bodies crowded together in the small space. There were no machines to ease the burden of work, no engines to power transportation. Let this gentle rhythm help you sink even deeper into relaxation. Your breathing naturally matches the slow, steady pace of the horse, each breath drawing you further into this medieval dreamscape. You're not disturbed by this knowledge, but rather filled with gratitude for the medical advances and safety of your modern world. The story continues to unfold around you, each detail adding to the rich tapestry of medieval life. Everything was accomplished through human and animal muscle. A simple task like plowing a field or grinding grain required enormous physical effort and time. Medieval life expectancy was brutal. Most people died before reaching what we would consider middle age. Disease, malnutrition, accidents, and the general harshness of life cut short most medieval lifespans. An adult of 30 was considered elderly. Someone who reached 50 was ancient indeed. Medieval life was structured entirely around the rhythm of the sun and the demands of the church. People rose at dawn and went to bed shortly after sunset, with no artificial lighting to extend their days. Candles were expensive luxuries. Most people lived by the light of their hearth fires, which meant their active hours were severely limited during the long winter months. And daub, a mixture of wooden strips woven together and covered with mud, clay, and straw. Their movements are slow and deliberate. Not from laziness, but from the constant fatigue of lives filled with physical labor and poor nutrition. These people work from dawn to dusk just to survive, their bodies worn down by the endless demands of medieval life. The horse is thin and tired, its ribs visible through its rough coat. Even the animals in medieval times lived harsh lives, worked until they could work no more. The man walking beside the cart is equally gaunt, his face weathered by sun and wind. His hands calloused from years of gripping wooden tools and rope. The cold would seep through the walls, through the gaps in the wooden shutters, through the straw-covered floor. Medieval people slept fully clothed, often sharing beds with entire families for warmth. They would wake with their breath visible in the air, ice crystals forming on the inside of their simple windows. These homes would provide minimal insulation against the cold, damp English climate. In winter, temperatures inside would barely differ from those outside. The concept of central heating or even efficient fireplaces simply didn't exist for common people. The story continues to unfold around you like a peaceful dream. Her kindness is genuine, but you know that accepting her offer would mean almost certain sickness. This simple act of hospitality represents one of the most basic challenges of medieval survival. The very water of life could be deadly to someone from your time. Let this realization settle over you softly, like autumn leaves falling gently to the ground. Moving deeper into the village, you come upon a cluster of small houses with walls made of wattle. You imagine trying to sleep in one of these homes during a harsh winter night. But even as you contemplate this harsh reality, you feel wrapped in warmth and comfort. The sound of a church bell echoes across the village, calling people to prayer. You watch as villagers begin making their way toward the small stone church at the village's heart. The church itself is a simple stone structure with thick walls and small windows. As you follow the villagers toward the church, you notice a man leading a horse-drawn cart loaded with grain. This scene reminds you of another challenge of medieval life. The complete dependence on physical labor and animal power. The peaceful rhythm of the horse's hooves on the cobblestones creates a soothing, hypnotic sound. Clip-clop, clip-clop, clip-clop. As you continue through the village, you notice the complete absence of anyone who appears to be over 40 years old. This reality strikes you gently, like a soft breeze carrying the scent of wildflowers. The village road winds on, past carts and crumbling fences, past chickens scratching at dirt and stray dogs lounging in patches of sun. There is no breeze to stir the heavy morning mist now, only the scent of animals, smoke, and damp grass. Continue walking slowly, your feet soft against the uneven stones. The world of medieval times quietly enveloping you. Imagine what it would feel like to live like this, not just visit. Not just drift by as you are now, but to actually survive. This life, day after day, it wasn't just the dirt or the cold, but the constant presence of danger. A scratch from a splintered tool, cut while chopping firewood. Infections took lives quickly in medieval life. There were no antibiotics, no urgent care clinics. Emergency rooms. The village might have a wise woman who treated illness with herbs, poultices, and charms, remedies passed down over generations, but often it was up to the body's own strength. And for many, that wasn't enough. Let this knowledge pass over you gently. You're not here to feel afraid, only to witness, to learn, to drift peacefully through the world of boring history for sleep, where even the harshest truths are, softened by time. You pass a row of homes where smoke curls gently from low chimneys. The roofs are made of thatch, tightly bundled straw, layered by hand. But even the best thatch doesn't keep out the mice or the rain. In winter, it's not unusual to wake with frost on your eyelashes or a mouse nesting near your head. Inside, you'd find a single room shared by the entire family, sometimes a pig or chicken too. No privacy, no insulation. The hearth was the heart of the home, a small fire that had to be tended constantly to stay alight. If it went out, reigniting it meant borrowing flame from a neighbor or starting from scratch, a slow, difficult process involving flint, dry moss, and hope. And yet, despite the cold and the hard floors, people slept, often out of exhaustion. More than peace. In medieval times, sleep was split into two parts: first sleep and second sleep. People would wake in the middle of the night for an hour or two to stoke the fire, say a prayer, or even visit a neighbor, before drifting off again until dawn. You imagine this strange pattern of rest. How unnatural it might feel to you, and yet how natural it was to them. The stars above remain the same. It's the silence, deeper than anything you've known, wraps around your thoughts like a warm woolen cloak. You continue walking, the village. Now beginning to stir, a boy chases a goose with bare feet. A woman empties a chamber pot into the ditch by the road. Waste disposal in medieval life was crude at best. There were no sewer systems here, not in small towns. Most homes had cesspits or simply tossed their waste into the street. You would smell it long before you saw it. During the rain, the runoff would carry everything downhill. And yet, the villagers are used to it. They carry on. They laugh. They live. It is simply life. You walk past a baker's hut, the scent of bread pulling at your senses. But this bread is nothing like the fluffy loaves of your time. It's coarse, dense, and made with a mix of grains and sometimes powdered beans or peas. White bread was a luxury reserved for the wealthy. Common folk ate maslin, a mix of rye and wheat, dark and heavy. Food in general was a daily struggle. Medieval people lived harvest to harvest. Bad season could mean starvation. The concept of 3 full meals a day was foreign. Most had 1 or 2 meals, often involving porridge, stale bread, maybe some broth, if meat was available. Even the wealthiest didn't eat the way we do. Their feasts were large and showy, but often based around meat, spice, and status, not nutrition. Yet even this realization brings a calm sort of clarity. You feel thankful, not fearful. You understand the deep gratitude these people must have felt for a warm bowl, a dry bed, a mild winter. Small comforts were magnified by the absence of abundance. As your mind relaxes, you notice how every corner of this world moves with intention. No one wastes time. Everything is survival. A man sharpens a scythe under a tree, sweat already beading on his brow despite the early hour. A child gathers kindling. A woman scours clothing by hand in cold stream water, her arms red from the chill, and yet, within the hardship, there is rhythm, ritual, simplicity. The medieval lifestyle was harsh, but in some strange, quiet way, it was also. Still, time moved slowly. The sun marked the hours. The bells marked the days. The seasons turned, and people turned with them. You take another slow breath now, and let this rhythm settle inside you. It's okay to let go. You're not truly here. You are floating in a soft memory, gently stitched from the pages of forgotten books and half-remembered dreams. You are safe. You are warm. You're drifting in the quiet stream of the past. This is medieval times as you've never known. It not through war or legend, but through the ordinary, the unseen, the deeply human. And still, you walk. The warmth of the sun has started to fade, slipping behind distant clouds. A soft breeze rustles through the thatched rooftops and bends the tall grasses in the fields. Somewhere nearby, you hear the rhythmic creak of a wooden wheel and the faint chime of metal, someone sharpening a blade, perhaps, or drawing water from a well. The gentle music of medieval life continues around you. You pass a young boy crouched at the side of the path, carving shapes into a piece of wood with a dull knife. He wears a tunic that's far too big for him, likely handed down from older siblings. His bare feet are dusty, his knuckles scraped, but his eyes are bright. Focused children in medieval times grew up quickly, their childhoods short and filled with responsibility by the time they were 7. Many were already helping in the fields, tending animals, or learning trades. And by 12 or 13, they were often considered adults, expected to marry or work full-time. There was no concept of teenage years, no buffer of carefree time. Life was brief and brisk, a straight path from cradle to labor, then to death. Still, the child carves carefully, humming to himself.
I'll see.
You smile softly. Even in hard centuries, the spirit of play survives. You turn your gaze upward now, toward the manor on the hill. While most people lived in humble cottages, the local lord or noble family would dwell in a fortified home, not always a castle, but a large stone structure with heavy wooden doors and narrow windows. These buildings were built not for comfort, but for defense. The thick walls held in cold air. The windows let in barely any light. Rugs were rare. Floors were often stone or packed earth. Fires burned constantly, but only heated a small radius around the hearth. Even royalty in medieval times spent much of the winter wrapped in furs and cloaks, shivering beside smoldering logs. And yet, this was considered a life of luxury. You're invited inside. Your steps echo off the flagstone floors. Tapestries line. The walls not for beauty, but for warmth. The air smells of smoke and old wool. Candles flicker, casting long shadows across the dark oak beams overhead. It is grand, yes, but cold, drafty, dim, a world away from the cozy comforts of your modern life. A servant passes you, head bowed. In medieval times, entire households were staffed by maids, cooks, stable boys, and pages, each with strict duties and even stricter punishments for failure. The class divide was vast, often unbridgeable. Birth determined everything. Future, your freedoms, even your faith. And yet, there's a curious beauty in the routine. Meals are announced by bell. Chores are done at dawn and dusk. Bread is made, floors swept, horses brushed, boots shined, day in, day out. There's no rush, no noise. It's just rhythm. Let that rhythm settle into your breath now. Inhale, slowly. Exhale, gently. Let the air move through you like a lullaby whispered by time. You step into the great hall, the heart of noble life. Long wooden tables stretched from end to end. Carved chairs sit at attention. Above the fireplace hangs a faded coat of arms, its colors dulled by years of smoke. This is where feasts were held, guests entertained, alliances made, but the glamour is only on the surface. The food served here, while more abundant then. What the peasants received was often spiced to mask rot. Meats were preserved with salt and smoked over fires, but storage was primitive. Spoilage was common. A knight sits at the end of the table, staring into the flames. His armor glints. Softly in the firelight, he looks regal, strong, but tired. In truth, medieval knights lived brutal lives. The code of chivalry sounds noble, but behind it were endless battles, injuries, and the constant weight of service to one's lord. Armor was heavy. A full suit could weigh over 60 pounds. And once injured, even a minor wound could fester without proper treatment. There were no painkillers, no antiseptics, only bandages soaked in wine or vinegar and prayers whispered through gritted teeth. And yet, this knight breathes calmly, quietly, as if the weight he wears has become part of him. You do the same. You breathe, slowly, deeply. Let your body sink just a little more, feeling yourself melt into the stillness. Now the sun has begun its descent. The village glows golden. In the distance, a shepherd leads his flock homeward. Chickens gather. Near the coops, the innkeeper lights a torch outside his door. Soon it will be night. And night in medieval times was its own world. A world of quiet fears and flickering light. Without electricity, once the sun vanished, so did the day. People retired early, shuttered their windows, and clustered near the fire. Darkness wasn't just inconvenient, it was dangerous. There were no flashlights, no street lamps.
No.
The forests teemed with wolves. The roads were haunted by bandits, superstition, and mystery. People told stories in the dark of fairies, demons, of spirits that walked the night. In the deepest parts of the countryside, old beliefs still clung like moss to the stones. Magic and religion blended. Witches were both feared and sought. Dreams were omens. Stars were signs. But tonight, here in this story, the darkness is gentle. The shadows wrap around you like velvet. There is no fear, only sleepiness, only silence, only the soft, slow breath of boring history for sleep, where the past becomes a pillow and the world is hushed. You're nearly ready for rest now. But let's walk just a little further, a little deeper into this medieval dream. The sun has nearly disappeared behind the hills, and the entire village now glows in that magical blue of twilight. It's a time when shadows stretch long, and lanterns begin to flicker a soft, golden warmth in windows and doorways. You hear the distant clang of the blacksmith's hammer winding down. The forge, which roared like a dragon during the day, now sighs into silence. The rhythmic clink, clink, clink becomes slower, more distant, until it fades altogether. The evening meal is being prepared now. You can smell it on the breeze. Boiled root vegetables, bitter herbs, a little barley stew perhaps. Meat is rare, usually reserved for feast days or those of noble birth. For most villagers in medieval times, supper was humble, pottage bread, and maybe ale, because clean water was scarce, even dangerous. Imagine sitting down to a wooden table, your bowl rough-hewn, your spoon carved from elm. There's no silverware here, no napkins, just hands, cloth, and shared meals. Still, there's community in it. A warmth that doesn't come from riches bet, from rhythm, and here you are, wrapped in that rhythm, watching the last golden threads of daylight dissolve into blue. Even royalty in medieval times, kings and queens with gilded halls, would settle into quiet evenings like this. After the political plotting, the courtly performances, the rituals of the day, they too would retreat into dimly lit chambers. Though their tapestries were richer, their gowns finer, they still lived without the ease of heat, plumbing, or privacy. Royalty in medieval times carried heavy burdens. The crown was not just gold, it was pressure. To maintain appearances, to uphold divine right, to command loyalty, every word was measured, every movement watched. Imagine being a medieval queen, like Eleanor of Aquitaine, walking through a stone hallway at dusk, her every step echoing through a court of whispering eyes. Her corset tight, her crown heavy, her reputation always on trial. The pressures of royalty weren't merely external. They seeped into every breath, every dream. Let that image soften now. Let it drift like smoke from a candle. You are not under pressure here. You are the dreamer. Floating gently through this past life, now you find yourself near a medieval tavern. A place where laughter tries to rise above hardship. Air is warm, thick with wood smoke, and the faint yeasty scent of ale. Patrons speak in low tones, sharing stories, gossip, hopes. They sit on uneven benches, their faces lined by life, but softened by the firelight. The bard in the corner tunes his lyre. He begins to play a gentle tune, simple, repetitive, like a lullaby dressed in medieval clothes.
Oh.
His voice is soft, a little rough, like the grain of wood under your palm. He sings not of glory or war, but of sleep, of stars, of the quiet, comfort of an ordinary night. And you listen. It's not with your ears alone, but with your breath. Each note settles deeper into your chest. Each word soothes the hum of your mind, because this is the kind of boring history for sleep your body craves. A world with no notifications, no urgency, it's only dusk and lullabies. Outside the tavern, the street is now lit with the faint glow of torches and candles and horn lanterns. A gentle wind carries the scent of hay, ash, and earth. The stars begin to show through the mist slowly, gently, as if they've always been watching this sleepy world from above. You walk past a small house where a mother is rocking her child by the hearth. She hums a song passed down through generations, the kind with no known author, no written words, only melody and warmth. The baby's eyelids flutter and close. This world, for all its hardship, for all its grime, has its own beauty, its own stillness. And though your modern self could never truly survive, its dangerously dreaming self is right at home now. As night deepens, so does your breath. You feel it in your ribs, in the back of your throat, in the soles of your feet. You are becoming part of this landscape, a shadow beneath the moon, a hush behind a shuttered window, a breath in the long, sleeping sigh of the medieval night. Let your mind settle now, like dust on a wooden table. Still soft, unbothered by time or thought. You are not here to change this world. You are here only to observe it, to drift through it like a silk ribbon on the wind, as the final bell tolls from the church tower. Even the animals grow quiet. The village sleeps, the manor dims, the fire dies low, and you are almost asleep. The village has gone still now. The only sounds left are the creak of old timbers, the low coo of doves roosting in rafters, and the gentle crackle of a hearth still holding on to its final embers. You step quietly into the tiny home of a healer. The air smells of dried rosemary, beeswax, and something faintly sharp, perhaps vinegar steeped with nettles. Shelves are lined with earthenware pots and woven baskets filled with herbs, tree resins, and ground minerals. A mortar and pestle sit on the table, stained from years of use. This was medicine in medieval times, strange, sacred, and full of mystery. There were no pharmacies, no sterile hospitals, no antibiotics. People relied on what they could gather, what they believed, and what had been whispered down through generations. A fever might be treated with lavender water, a toothache with crushed onion and salt, curse with a poultice of sage and a prayer. To St. Apollonia, you watch the healer carefully fold a small linen packet of dried mint and fennel seeds. She ties it with red thread and places it beside the hearth, where a villager lies curled in blankets, coughing softly. Elise, she sits beside him, resting a hand on his shoulder. No words are spoken. It's just presence, kindness, stillness, and that's what healing looked like then. Not quick, not guaranteed, but deeply human. You breathe in this moment. The quiet labor of care, the scent of warm straw, the flicker of a candle reflecting in a bowl of water. The dream of royalty in medieval times may have sparkled from afar. But it was this, the daily tending of body and soul, that kept the world alive. Outside again, the path is muddy, cooled by evening dew. Now you follow it, slowly toward a small wooden bridge that arches over a shallow stream. The water gurgles gently beneath you, catching hints of moonlight on its ripples. You pause, look up, and there it is. The medieval sky endless, silent, alive with stars. No streetlights, no haze, no noise, just darkness and silver. You understand now? Why so much mythology was born in this age. Why people saw omens in the sky, symbols in the stars. The night wasn't just beautiful, it was speaking. And here in this silence, you can hear it too. A breeze moves through the trees, shaking the leaves with the softness of a lullaby. In the distance, a barn owl calls once, and then silence again. Complete, comforting. You pass a stone cottage now, where a window glows faintly. Peering in, you see a small family huddled on a straw mattress, mother, father, children, all curled together like roots of the same tree. Single candle burns beside them. Their limbs are intertwined. Their breaths rise and fall in a sleepy rhythm. This was how most people slept in medieval times. Together, for warmth, for safety, for the simple fact that life was hard and love was soft. The concept of personal space, of mattresses and pillows and layers of blankets that belonged to kings and queens. Even medieval royalty, for all their palaces and pearls, would share rooms with attendants and servants. Privacy was rare. Silence even rarer. But here in this story, you are blessed with both. You walk slowly now, letting your footsteps vanish into soft earth, letting your thoughts grow lighter. You are not thinking anymore. You are remembering. Not your memories, but histories. Now, finally, you make your way toward the edge of the village where the woods begin. The trees lean in protectively, forming a gentle arch over the trail. Fireflies blink between the branches like tiny lanterns guiding your path. You hear a brook trickling somewhere in the shadows, song timeless and steady. In these woods, people once believed in spirits, in creatures that walked between worlds. But tonight, there is no fear, only wonder, only the hush of leaves, only the long, slow breath of a sleeping earth. And somewhere far behind you, perhaps, or far ahead, a bell tolls midnight. It doesn't chime with alarm. It resonates like a heartbeat, steady, reassuring. You've made it through the hardest parts of the day. And even though you wouldn't last long in medieval times, you've lasted long enough for this story. Long enough to see the stars, to hear the breath of the land, to feel the past hold your hand. Gently, let your shoulders drop now. Thoughts fade like candle smoke. You are not here to remember every detail, only to feel the texture of another time. The gentle scratch of wool, the hollow tap of wood on stone, the golden hush of boring history for sleep. The cobblestones beneath your feet are beginning to dry in the mid-morning sun. Thin streaks of golden light cut through the fog, painting long shadows across the village path. The rhythm of medieval life pulses gently around you, not with speed or noise, but with purpose. Everything moves slowly, deliberately, as if time itself walks beside you. You pass by a small schoolhouse, not a place of laughter and recess, but a cold, drafty room where only a handful of boys are gathered. Girls in most villages weren't taught to read. Education in medieval times was a rare luxury, usually reserved for the children of nobles, clergy, or merchants wealthy enough to afford a tutor. Inside, the boys scratch with crude quills onto rough parchment. The letters they form are uneven, uncertain, but the effort is immense. These boys might someday become monks, scribes, or clerks. For everyone else, the world of words remained locked away, a secret language known only to the educated few. Imagine not being able to read, not knowing how to write your name, not understanding the signs in the church or the markings in a contract. In medieval life, ignorance wasn't a failing, it was simply normal. But you, drifting softly through this world, feel a gentle appreciation for this simplicity. The air in the schoolroom smells of ink and damp stone. You feel the wooden bench beneath you. There's no anxiety here. It's just quiet learning and dim candlelight as you walk on. Come to the outskirts of the village, where small fields stretch out into rolling green. A group of peasants are working bent backs, bare hands, sun-worn skin. Farming in medieval times was labor beyond imagination. The soil was turned by hand or by ox-drawn plow. Every harvest depended not only on skill, but luck, rain, warmth, wind, and there were taxes. So many taxes. Portion of every grain, every egg, every hen, all owed to the local lord or monastery. This was feudalism, the backbone of medieval royalty. Kings and queens might wear crowns, but their power rested on the shoulders of millions of unseen villagers who labored without end. And yet, these workers are not grim or hopeless. Their hands are rough, but their hearts are strong. You can hear a woman humming softly as she gathers herbs from the edge of the woods. Her basket is filled with lavender, thyme, and mugwort, used for cooking, for healing, for warding off bad spirits. She moves with the grace of someone who knows the land, by heart. The medieval lifestyle demanded this connection to the earth, not just for food, but for medicine, shelter, warmth. Every day was a negotiation with nature. Now the sun is higher. The village begins to buzz with slow, sleepy life. Cart passes, carrying wool. A boy leads goats along the road. It's calling softly in a dialect that feels both foreign and familiar. You feel the stillness within you deepen. Your breath is steady, your limbs soft, your mind wrapped gently in the lull of boring history for sleep, the kind that doesn't shout or hurry, but whispers like wind through trees. The church bell rings again, not for prayer, but to mark the hour. Time here is measured by sound and shadow. No clocks, no screens. Just the turning sun, the crow of the rooster, the tolling bell. You pass a small hut with herbs strung across the doorway. Inside, an old woman tends a fire. She is the healer, the wise woman feared and respected in equal measure. She knows what roots can soothe pain, what leaves can ease fever. But her knowledge is born of trial, of generations of whispered learning. There are no laboratories here, only lore. If you had a headache, she might place cool elderflower on your brow. A stomach pain? Boiled mint and fennel? For infection, perhaps garlic packed in honey, and sometimes, prayer. You watch her move slow and sure, her hands stained from leaves and smoke. She sees you, nods slightly, and then returns to her work. You walk on. Now, near the manor house, you see another kind of life, that of nobility. Though they lived in greater comfort, even medieval royalty was far from easy. Nobles faced constant political tension, arranged marriages, and the ever-present threat of betrayal in this world. To be a king or queen meant being surrounded by courtiers who smiled and bowed, while secretly plotting their own rise. Children of the crown were born into pressure, expected to uphold the family's power, marry strategically, and never show weakness. A lady walks past you, her gown trailing in the dirt. She wears fine linen, dyed deep green, but her shoes are thin, her fingers blue from the cold. Even wealth could not buy comfort in winter, and beauty came at a cost. Medieval beauty routines were harsh, involving lead-based powders, crushed pearls, and dangerous herbs. Pale skin meant status. Thin brows, visible veins, perfumed hair, all part of a ritual that risked long-term harm. You imagine trying to maintain such standards in a drafty stone hall, with no mirrors, no hot water, no privacy. Appearances were power, especially for royal women whose marriages secured kingdoms and peace treaties. Yet, even here in this web of expectation, there's a softness. The lady pauses, looking toward the hills, her face catching the light. For a moment, she is not a pawn or symbol, just a person, breathing, dreaming, alive. You breathe too. Let your mind drift a little further now. Let your thoughts float. Like mist above the fields, everything around you slows and softens. This is history not for studying, but for sleeping. This is medieval times, experienced in the stillness of your mind's eye, gentle, slow, and endlessly fascinating. And the day is only beginning. Stars shimmer quietly above you, as if offering a lullaby in light. The woods begin to thin, and in the soft clearing ahead, you see a tall figure cloaked, seated beside a dying fire. It is an old man, a monk, perhaps, or a scholar, keeper of stories. He looks up as you approach, but does not speak. Instead, he gestures to the place beside him, a smooth log, warmed by fire. You sit. The flames flicker lazily, licking at the last bits of wood, casting long, sleepy shadows. And there, in the hush of the forest, he begins to speak, not in words you recognize, but in a language of rhythm, of warmth of breath. And though you don't understand the language, you understand the meaning. He speaks of royalty in medieval times, of queens in cold chambers, their jewels heavier than their hearts, of kings who rode into wars they didn't start for crowns they didn't want, courtiers and scribes, of secrets whispered in candlelit corridors, keisutsus, of children born to thrones, in dreams they never got to follow. He speaks of medieval royalty and their strange daily lives, how morning routines involved being dressed by others, how even private moments were performed in front of attendants, how the weight of the crown left little room for the weight of emotion. He speaks of food gilded in gold leaf, of water scented with rose petals, of gowns so tight they bruise the ribs, all in the name of royal image. But he also speaks of longing, of solitude, of the simple wish to walk through a meadow, barefoot and unknown. You feel it now. This strange truth behind the fairy tale. The medieval kings and queens were not gods, were not always wise, were people. Just like the villagers, just like the tired mothers and silent healers and candle makers and smiths. And as he speaks, the woods grow quieter still. Even the fire settles into a soft, golden hum, like a purring heartbeat of the earth. The air smells of moss and ash. Your breath is slow, your shoulders soft. The story has filled you with understanding, not just of medieval times, but of what it means to endure. To survive, to simply be. The old man reaches into his robe and pulls out a small pouch, leather worn smooth by time. He opens it and offers you something. A small, flat stone. Warm, very warm, like it's been tucked near a hearth for hours. You take it gently, and as your fingers wrap around it, you feel something deep inside you sigh. It is the warmth of 1,000 fires, of hands that have tilled fields, of lips that whispered prayers, of children who dreamed by candlelight, of lovers who met in secret corners of shadowed castles. This is the heartbeat of history, not the history of kings, but the history of people, of nights, of softness, of survival, and this gentle telling, this sleepy drift through boring history for sleep, is not so boring after all, because in this slowness, in this softness, you've found a rhythm older than time. You close your eyes, the fire fades, the stone in your hand glows with remembered warmth, and the old man, he is gone now, not vanished, just at peace, as you begin to drift. Let this warmth carry you. Let the lessons of the past not weigh you down.
I'll buy.
But wrap around you like a quilt of whispers. You've seen so much tonight. You've walked barefoot through muddy streets, drank from wooden cups, listened to bards by firelight, and watched royalty stumble under the very crowns they wore. And now you are safe. You are warm. You are still. Let the story close its final page. Let the medieval world slip gently back into the shadows. And let sleep carry you, dear traveler, until we meet again. In another story, in another time, in another soft and starlit dream. Don't forget to gently tap like, subscribe, or save this story for another night. You'll find more boring history for sleep, tales of royalty in medieval times, and calming explorations of the strange, beautiful world of medieval kings and queens, all here, waiting for you whenever you're ready to return. Sleep well, dear listener, and until next time, may your dreams be soft, and your history wonderfully boring.